Well, greetings everyone. Welcome to, week 4, week 5. I'm starting to lose track of how long we've been doing this. This will be week 5, I think. That's hard to believe, isn't it? Well, first, let me just say how profoundly sad I am that we're not going to be returning to school. We're not going to be able to sit together in the classroom. Um, I know that's just got to be one more blow for you guys, and you're on my hearts. You're on my hearts, and I just want to assure you that if there be a way somehow, we all will get together again. I've got a couple of movies I'd like for us to watch together that I planned on doing. Like, if we got back to school that last week, we wouldn't be having any real instruction time. So we'll keep an eye on things. I saw some encouraging news in the Peoria newspaper this morning that the rates in Illinois are drastically declining, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to still get together. Um, so this, if it seems like the next couple of weeks, and that's where we're going to finish up the end of next week, is a hodgepodge of all kinds of different things. That's because it's a hodgepodge of all kinds of different things. Last little tidbits of things that I want us to consider as we get to the end of worldviews, I guess. Um, and the idea of postmodernism, is this bringing us to the end of some kind of a cultural moment of any kind? um, I guess a big question to consider here is what is God's purpose for history, for the unfolding of time? Remember way back at the beginning of the year when we were comparing the Indo-European and Semitic civilizations. I shared with you that, and Alberto taught Sophia about, one of the things that Semitic culture gave to the world. Thomas Cahill's book, The Gift of the Jews, that I talked about, is this idea of linear history, that the human experience is a human story. We are not just going through cycles and cycles and cycles of everything all over again, and we're not even necessarily spiraling our way upward or moving our way in some kind of a Hegelian dialectic towards some absolute. There's the story has a distinct beginning with creation. Um, it has a whole plot that is unfolding that hinges on the coming of Christ and the inauguration of the kingdom back into the world. And the story will have a consummation, and what that's going to look like um, is yet to be seen. I think that what we've seen throughout the year, and what Fukuyama is addressing in his whole idea of the end of history, is that human progress is how we measure our evolution as human beings. And when it looks like there's not going to be any more progress in modern terms, um, that's that's the end of history from his point of view. We've reached the point where there's in Hegelian dialectical terms, there's no longer going to be a thesis or an antithesis to challenge the Western liberal democracy thesis. I think, in all of these years, 40 years, 30 years, however, 30 years since the fall of communism, um, I don't think that we've come to the point where Western liberal democracy has triumphed. If anything's triumphed in the world, it's Western popular culture. And that's another kind of connection. A lot of what we have seen, I think, is that human progress, when it's done in our own strength, tends to distance us from God, and it makes us more self-sufficient and less in need of the God who created us. Um, so Fukuyama, when you hear him say it's the end of history, I hope now you understand what he means by that. He's not really saying that time is stopping. He's saying we have reached a point where there's no longer going to be this thesis, antithesis, synthesis thing happening anymore. We've come to the end of human progress. I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, how do you account for Bernie and the whole revival of interest in socialism in the Western world? So we'll see about that. Um, to a certain degree, I think Jean Baudrillard is, he is a coda. These things that we're looking at over the next couple of weeks are just a series of almost codas on units that we've done in the past. Fukuyama and is a coda on the ideology unit. Um, Baudrillard is a coda on the pop culture thing. With this whole idea that uh, there's so much going on, but nothing is really happening. There's the best we can do is keep ourselves entertained. This reminded me of Solomon's wisdom in Ecclesiastes. Where he talks about the vanity of human endeavors. That there's nothing that's ever going to make us, these wonderful, perfect people. And at the end of Ecclesiastes he says, when all has been heard, the conclusion of the matter is fear God and keep his commands, because this is for all humanity. For God will bring every act to judgment, including every hidden thing, whether good or evil. So essentially the human thing is not how well or how much we can progress. The human thing is how well and near we can draw toward our Creator. The Timothy Morton is somebody that I am the least familiar with, but I sort of find him the most intriguing. This was kind of some new things that I had come up. In fact, this little bit with Timothy Morton, sorry, is you're the first class to ever be exposed to this. His whole idea that we may have come to the end of progress in modern terms, which is wrapped up in industrialization and technology and things like that, but maybe we are going to enter into a new period of what he calls intimacy. He's talking about intimacy between human beings and non-human beings. That's kind of tied to the whole modern, postmodern, anthropal and this idea that we are all essentially animals. We just happen to be highly evolved, the highest evolved animals, but we all have to share this earth, and we have to figure out how to do it in a way that we coexist. And that's always a big utopian dream. This the little bumper sticker, the coexist bumper sticker. I like this because it is a call to care. That's something that's really missing in our society. I wonder if this time of COVID crisis is going to really instill a new spirit of caring. But we need to not just care for the non-humans who inhabit this world with us. We also need to care for the other humans that need to know who they really are as God's children. Samuel Huntington is, to a certain degree, kind of a Back to the Future. His idea that we're going to return to this clash of civilizations between the great world civilizations. I mean, that's the whole unfolding of history that we did all of first semester. And his idea that a lot of this is going to be based in religion. Well, what does that say about the secularization thesis? That doesn't seem to it seems to dispel the idea that we're eventually going to be secularized. Although we've got, the new atheists and the transhumanists, and they definitely are still hoping for that secularization thesis to be true. It's interesting how they are taking two different approaches that are contrary to who we really are as human beings. The new atheists are denying and rejecting the aspect of divinity that plays a part in who we are as human beings. Both of these groups are rejecting the whole idea that of the Imago Dei, that we are created in God's likeness. Transhumanists want to reject and transcend our very humanity. So these two schools are both looking for a secular future, but they're looking at different aspects of who we really are as human beings to try to make that come true. And then later on in the week, we're going to make a shift into starting to look again, once again, and this is kind of where things are going to wrap up for us is, okay, how do we do Christianity in this culture, in this postmodern, perhaps even post-Christian culture? Remember, we're still very, very much living in the modern world, and I don't think there's going to be any escaping that unless something would really drastically happen to completely deconstruct all of the social structures that we're familiar with. Some kind of great economic crisis, and that could be coming, but I am going to trust God for the best for the future. So there's my 2 cents worth. Enjoy the reading this week. I'll be back on Thursday with a little bit of a discussion of what we're looking at and what we're going to be looking at in terms of the state of Christianity as things come to the end for us in this quarter. Let me close with some words from Augustine and try to remember which one I wanted to read. Here it is. Okay, turn your eyes homeward. Let us work hard every day at making progress toward God. If we are tested or tempted, let's not panic, but place our hope in God. We are Christians, and our homeland is not here. Like good children, let us turn our steps homeward, that our course may be approved and guided to its rightful conclusion. Heal and open my eyes, O Lord, that I may recognize your will. Put to flight my foolishness, that I may know you. Amen. Amen. All right. I'll be back later this week.